Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and when we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we have an interesting episode for you guys that you definitely want to stick around for, so make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, y'all know that we love producing these Michael Jordan videos and pissing off these haters, man. You know what? I gotta say, it's something that I really enjoy. I didn't know. For all the people that love Jordan, I didn't know there were so many people hating on him. Who you think Jordan is? Y'all think he's so I'll be loving it. And the best part about it is we piss these people off, and nevertheless, they still come back every day to talk about it. I think it's just fantastic, and I absolutely love it. And this is coming from a Kobe Bryant fan, by the way. Kobe Bryant is my favorite player of all time. But it seems as if everywhere I turn, there's somebody giving Jordan some major props, man, about his dominance over the NBA. It's like, man, golly, was he that cold? Was Jordan really that cold that everywhere you turn, there's somebody giving him his props? I mean, to me, I think it's unbelievable. I think it's just unbelievable. And that's the same thing that I just stumbled upon today via sportsrush.com with Tim Legler on the JJ Redick podcast. Y'all know Tim Legler, former NBA player, works at ESPN, does a fantastic job, analyzes the game in a very classy way. You got to love Tim Legler, although he did have one classic moment when he had a disagreement with Skip Bayless on ESPN First Take. I thought that was fantastic. But basically, y'all know that Tim Legler played in an era where Michael Jordan was, with the Chicago Bulls, and he was asked by JJ Redick during the show, during their podcast, the interview, about was it ever in doubt? Did anyone ever question Jordan's position or status in the NBA in terms of being the greatest player of all time or the best player currently playing? And I want you guys to take a listen to a series of things that Tim Legler had to say here, because he said a lot. So we want you guys to listen to it in its entirety. And I'm going to come back and react to it. So take a listen to what he had to say here, and we're going to come back and unpack this.
The GOAT convo that we have to talk about at times in modern media, did that exist in the 90s?
No.
Did it exist amongst players? Did you guys talk about MJ or Hakeem as like, where do they rank historically?
No, we didn't. Number one, it was just a complete given. And I would tell people all the time, I played literally from 1990 in the NBA to 2000. 90s, that's my decade. Jordan won 6 rings. If he didn't go hit curveballs for 2 years, he'd probably have 8. So every year of my career, basically, they won. We even played him in the playoffs one year. And so for me, when that conversation, even back then, it was just a given. No, this is the greatest player of all time. And now, obviously, we're all these years later, 30 plus years later, and now people want to make that into a debate. It still isn't for me. And I'm going to be the first to admit it. I am biased. I guarded him a lot. I guarded those teams a lot. I know what that looked like. And for me, it was that. It was what he did as a basketball player. And he's the only guy I ever played against in my life that never took his foot off the gas as like, I want to annihilate what's in front of me every time I touch it. Like, I played great players. I played Clyde Drexler, Mitch Richmond, Reggie Miller, Chris Mullin. I mean, Hall of Fame guys at that spot. But if you guarded Reggie Miller, nightmare for those 6 minutes. He's running you wild, But you know what else was going to happen at some point? For like 2 straight minutes, 4-5 trips in a row, they were going to throw the ball to Rick Smits.
Yeah.
And he was going to stand there and camp out, and you could like relax for a second. Like, wow, okay. That was never the case in the triangle offense. They never had another guy like that. He was always moving, trying to post you, catch it, swing through, go. You had to box him out every time. Like, a lot of 2 guards, you're like, the shot goes up. You're like, okay, that guy's not coming to the glass. Like, you can relax. Not him. You're going to be on a poster. You're going to be on SportsCenter tonight. If you don't box him out. So, like, the mental and physical pressure he put on you was unlike anything I've ever seen. There were other players, though, that I would see cause nausea amongst guys in your locker room. Shaq in particular. Like, you look around at the centers I would play with that night, it was just different. Their approach to, like, the pregame, you're looking over, like, man, he doesn't look that good. Like, he's sweating a little bit. Like, because you could not just get outplayed. You could get humiliated. You know what I mean? And Jordan was kind of like that, but not physically like Shaq would do to you. There's so much electricity. I'll never forget. So we go to play them the first 2 in Chicago, and he had a 50-point game in one of those 2. Here's the thing. All 3 was his best of 5 first round. All 3 games, they swept us. All 3 games were a 1-possession game inside of 3 minutes. That's how tough we played them, including at home. We're up 1 inside of a minute, and Pippen had a 3-point play dunk, and that pretty much ended it. But so the electricity going to the arena for Game 3 in Washington, what that felt like, and I had been there now for this is my second full season there, and I was that year I came back for the very end of the year from my knee injury, so I really wasn't really playing a lot still, but I'd been there now for 2 seasons, and it was every other game combined times 10 walking into the building even. It was like the Beatles. I would describe it like that. It was like that when we were going to play them. It's kind of what it felt like. I tell a story all the time, playing them in Chicago Stadium during that time, the iconic music, MJ being introduced last. You'd be standing on the court, and you and I could be teammates. There's no possible way you could hear a word I was saying by the time they got to his name for starting lineups. Not to mention the fact you're down in the locker room below the court, dimly lit hallway, puddles on the ground. That's the locker room they gave you. You'd be down there and like you'd hear what's kind of going on upstairs, and it really did feel a lot like the movie Gladiator, like you're being led out there. You know, you're like marching down the hallway. You know, it's like we're about to go up. We're being fed to slaughter. Like that's what it felt like. You know, and you walk out there, and it's just like, to this day, I've never experienced an environment like playing against Michael Jordan in Chicago Stadium. It was the most electrifying thing in the world, and obviously just the adrenaline. And I had some pretty good games against them there too, which always felt good.
Now, the first thing I think was laughable was the very first thing that he said, where he was like, no one ever questioned whether or not Jordan was the best, like ever. No one ever did. Like, it was never a doubt. I thought that was funny, man. I thought it was funny because I'm like, I know the people in the comments are like, golly, you mean to tell me there was no one in? No, the dude was like, we all knew it. The fans knew it. The players knew it. You know, everybody knew it, right? It was never in question, right? This was never so. And I thought that was very revealing, right? That he said that because, you know, this is a guy. This is a competitor of his. You would think that somebody would be hate on him, but no, the guy went out there and just basically said it like it was. And to this day, there's no good argument, no good argument that anyone has ever made to say that there was somebody better than Michael Jordan when it comes to playing basketball. There's no good argument. You know, I think the reason that people created this argument or talk about it, I think it's just because I think it drives ratings and views, right? Like there's no reasonable argument to say that Kobe Bryant, or to use, that basically says Kobe Bryant is better than Jordan, or that LeBron James is on Michael. There's no argument. Every single argument, you can go out there and comb through the internet. There's none. There's none. There's going to be some obtuse, obscure argument that someone has to show, that has to throw out there to say, okay, no, there isn't, right? And if you think you have the argument that says that there's somebody better than Michael Jordan, please leave it in the comment section and let the viewers come in there and roast you up, because I think they're going to roast you into pieces because there is none. Now, back to what he said. I think it was also telling that he said that if Jordan didn't go or leave the league to go play baseball, he could have possibly won 8 championships in a row. That's crazy. That's crazy. Like, but I don't think he's the only person that believes that. There are a lot of people that felt like, wait a minute, if this guy didn't leave the league in his prime, Jordan left in his prime. It wasn't like as if he left at the end towards the tail end of his prime with the Chicago Bulls, you know, in the last dance, and then came back as a Washington Wizard. No, he was still in the heart of his prime, you know. So if he had stayed, there's a legitimate chance that the Chicago Bulls would have dominated, and he came back and lost to the Orlando Magic. But what happened the following season? So imagine if Jordan never missed a beat and he was still playing. I think there's a good argument that he could have won. That he could have won 8 championships in a row. I thought that was interesting. I thought the other thing that he said was interesting was when he took us behind the curtains as a former player, or what it felt like to play against Michael Jordan in terms of the fear factor and all of the different things that came with playing against Jordan, you know, coming out of the tunnel, the locker room. I thought he painted a vivid picture, and I really enjoyed listening to him because it put me there. I felt like I was, in the tunnel with him, the way he described it, like, going out there, like your gladiators and, in the Coliseum. I thought he did a fantastic job. And I think the only other player, and he said it, that really kind of elicited that type of fear from his opponents was Shaq, right? Now, to a certain extent, Kobe, to a certain extent, but Jordan just seems as if like he was just this mythical creature that played. Like, it was like you hear all of these stories and it seemed like as if Jordan was levitating above the sport. Like it was the NBA, there was Magic, there was Bird, there was Clyde Drexler, there was Patrick Ewing, there was Alonzo Mourning. There were all of these great players, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Gary Payton, all of these guys. And then you had Jordan, who was just like Scottie Pippen, and you were just above it all, right? That's the sense that you get. And I think Tim Legler basically said in no uncertain terms that the GOAT debate is laughable. And that's one of the reasons why he said, no, we never talked about it. Nah, we never discussed it. It never came up. We all knew what the deal was, right? So if this is a former player who played during Jordan's era saying that it was never in doubt, and maybe we've had players since Jordan, subsequently, after Jordan, it was always a debate. Is it this guy? Is it this guy? It's always a debate, but with Jordan, it was never a debate. And I think that's telling, because he didn't leave any single wiggle room for there to even be a debate.